option, in my opinion. I think we're looking at reallocation or relocation. And I know that our attorney, I hope I'm speaking loud enough for everybody in the back, Ms. Lawner, said that we don't have to send it to a vote of the people because it wasn't a legislative decision, but rather it's an administrative decision. However, I also know that we can refer anything to the people as an advisory vote. And in fact, in November 2010, Measure 3175 in Union County was an advisory vote on wind energy. And I would think that it would be appropriate to put an advisory vote to the people. If they want the library, we go forth with relocation. If we don't want the library, we move to reallocation. I think it's definitely worth the conversation. It's worth the vote of the people so that everyone is heard. And I would think that the folks in this room would agree that this has been a long time, and we want to put it to bed, and we want to have this project that's supposed to be bringing our community together has been the most divisive issue that we have seen in a long time. And I think that once the majority vote goes through from the people, we can just live with that we know that our friends and neighbors and community members want this, and we can 100% be behind it either way.
So a couple of comments. I don't want to ever not say that really has a vote piece. I think we've done a lot of conversation. We've heard a lot of comments. I think, and staff needs to not delay any further. I think having, this piece of it, Councilor Hensley, is we need to move forward. My opinion is, and I can't second or not second your motion.
I didn't make a motion. I was just
Well,
giving you my position.
Okay. So I just think at this point we need to stay on track. And if you honestly think that it's going to be an allocation or move, then we should be looking at those things and not. I don't know what putting it out to the voters is going to tell us anything different. Do you honestly believe that it will?
I believe that the vote of the people would be that we don't build a library. If they said to build a library, we would be 100% on board with the project. The feedback I'm getting, I think it would go the way of the unfortunate fate of the school levy, but that is just the feedback that I am getting. Scores and scores of people, I think was the term used earlier, and it's been at least that.
Well, then I would ask then that you, I would ask that you actually make a motion then to see if that becomes a piece. I mean, is that, Joe, sorry, Mr. City Attorney?
That's, no, by all means, Mr. Mayor. It's within the power of the council to, basically ask the citizens for an advisory opinion, but that's what you're going to get. It's an advisory opinion. And it will cost $7,000?
$6,000.
$6,000.
On the September ballot.
What about November?
I don't know the figures for that. It depends how many measures there are on the ballot. That's what it's dependent on.
Okay.
It wouldn't be binding.
No, I understand
Correct.
that.
I understand that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
And since that issue of a vote of the people is not on the agenda, if there is a motion and a second, would it take a majority vote of the council or 2/3 of the council to approve it?
It not being on the agenda means that it's actually kind of outside of the realm of public meetings law. So it's sort of, it's not technically on there. I guess it goes under the
Discussion.
the heading, discussion. But I think the safer thing really would be to, if you're going to actually have that motion, you should probably put it on next meeting's agenda so you can discuss it there and vote on it there.
So a motion would take 2/3 then?
Well, no,
Tonight.
the problem isn't 2/3 versus majority. The problem is you need to
posting of meeting.
give notice
Okay.
about decisions, because this just says discussions. This does not say motions. And so if you're going to have a motion like that, I think the safe bet to do would to be actually
not
give
just make
at least
it-
24 hours notice in order to vote on a motion like that.
But my understanding though of our conversation tonight is making a decision.
Well, there's only certain limited decisions that the council can make anyway, frankly. They're
So,
part of,
okay, so I'm
this
sorry,
was
I'll
the
let you
bonds. I mean, to answer maybe another question that maybe should be asked is, the city council's decision-making process and power has to do with whether the bonds should go forward as they're described in accordance with the IGA. But frankly, agency decisions can't be still trounced on by city council. I have of the legal opinion that the city has always had the power to say that they don't want that bond to say what it says or be allocated in the way that it is, but there's kind of that uncomfortable bifurcation of power between the city's funding and bonding of it and the agency's decision-making power. So I think if you go forward and start trying to make design or style decisions, I think that's kind of a little beyond city council power, frankly. I think you go back into agency decision-making.
Okay, so I'm going to try not to be as agitated as I may seem.
Okay.
We just went through this 3-hour conversation because my understanding was that tonight was going to be, we needed to make a decision.
Well,
And that
I'm
this-
sorry.
that this decision was going to be, from my understanding, this was going to be how we were going to move forward.
The motion itself had to do with city power and city decision-making, which was, the motion that was in front of you guys had to
Okay.
do with the way the bond was. I'm telling you that when you start entertaining motions either outside of what's been given public notice or entertaining motions that are outside your actual, the duties that are delegated administratively to the agency, then those have to be handled by the agency.
So these other two pieces on here have to be agency now conversations, not city conversations.
No, because the agenda is open enough that you can have a motion on continuing the current library, allocating funds to other projects, or different location or design. The motion that Tracy's talking about of sending it to the vote of the people is nowhere in that description. So the public had no way knowing that that was going to happen.
Okay.
But within that notice, that my motion, from an unlicensed attorney's point of view, is totally appropriate.
Okay. Is that the explanation, okay, so then everything else that we have here is under the purview of our conversation this evening, in terms of being able to have a decision, point staff
I'll
in a
go back and
direction.
I'll answer the two-thirds question first. And the two-thirds question is, if you look even on page 6, or, wait, I'm sorry, 5 of what you've been passed tonight, the council packet, at the top, it talks about rescinding, it talks about reconsideration, and if you notice that a previous notice of an intent to make a motion to rescind is actually given, then it only requires a majority vote. Is that what you're getting at? There is no two-thirds in this?
Okay,
Okay.
that was what I was, thank you. Okay, so if said motion, Counselor Hensley, is what you wish to do, then we need to put that on an agenda for an agency meeting?
No, that's a city matter, but it
That's
just
just a
hasn't been
referral.
given
Okay.
proper
All right.
notice.
Okay.
Okay.
Because it says the previous notice of intent to make a motion to rescind is not given, it will require two-thirds. So since there was no notice, it would require two-thirds.
No, I'm sorry if I'm confusing you guys,
I was
and
just
maybe
reading
it's
the
late and I'm not
sentence.
explaining it well, is that his question about whether or not it would require a two-thirds vote or not, the only issue that would require a two-thirds vote would be if there was not previous notice given about rescinding a motion that has been already passed. Right?
Oh, okay.
But notice has been given, so we don't have that two-thirds issue here. But there's a separate issue about notice if you're outside of the scope of what you've given notice of.
Okay. So again.
You just have to give notice.
We have to
before
give
you-
notice, and
Yeah.
for now, we need to stick to what's in hand.
Correct.
Thank you. So, I'll go back to, we have heard from the people this evening. We have had a motion once already. What say you, council?
So Kim, the earliest election is September, that it could be
It's a
done?
special election.
Okay, so September's the opportunity. I am not opposed to an advisory vote. I do want to get some direction, though, to the staff. So, my personal preference is that we still proceed with directing staff by date certain to look at the relocation option.
So, okay, so,
Help me fill in the blanks.
help me fill in the blanks. I mean, so you're saying you, yes, fight to go and have an advisory vote of the people?
Well, two issues. Skipping back to the agenda, skipping back to the agenda for tonight, we've just failed a motion to continue on with the current plan.
Yes, we did.
We need to do something else.
Yes, we do.
I'm not opposed to a vote of the people. I don't think it's in me to ever be opposed to a vote of the people. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yes, I would agree.
I don't want staff in limbo till the September election. And I don't want library volunteers, and I don't want us to be in limbo until
I
September.
don't want the city in limbo,
Right.
period.
So I would favor that we need to give our staff direction. Right now, they have none. So we need to either tell them, go figure out how to reallocate, or figure out how to relocate.
Correct, and
Does that
that's
make
what
sense?
it is, and that's what I'm asking.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
In the event you do further examination of another location, and in the event that it's not favorable information you gather, and this would have proven to be a better site, and let's say Cub is amenable to reasonable negotiations, would you reconsider back to this original site?
At a savings of probably $5 million. Personal opinion.
I'd so move.
Well, hang on a second. I'm not hearing a motion, I'm hearing a question.
I'll make a
Well,
motion.
well, can we vet this question, please? So, I think that would then become a similar conversation to what we're having right now, right? Would that open this dialogue unnecessarily or necessarily? Because now this is beyond three-ring circus here.
The dialogue has been opened necessarily by a negative vote on my, so you don't have a choice.
He is commenting that the conversation is open because of the negative vote on the first motion. So we are having, so to Counselor Coleman's question was, so if we vet a third, another option, and it doesn't work out, do we come back to this one? And if Cub is amicable and all that fun hunky-dory stuff, are we back to this same square dance? I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer for that.
It would seem to me that if we were to examine other locations, one of the things that could be efficient time-wise is if we put a time limit on it
Right.
of maybe 60 days. It would seem to me that you should be able to gather sufficient information from the property owners behind the existing library to see if they would be on board with that. If appraisals needed to be done, estimating of costs, it would seem like you could gather enough information to, I think, build a case for or against an alternative location.
Okay. Greg, yes.
We had a discussion this morning, I believe it was, And we talked about staff having went out and asked what a value would be at the Third Avenue location. Because that was one of the locations when we went and did the feasibility study, as you know. And so, remember I told you that, I didn't remember if you were the one that asked or who asked that question. So, but we did do that. We went to Bill Harper. He's got some expertise in this area. So the cost of building a library, 25,000 square feet with the 11,000 on top, two-story, has been vetted in terms of, we've at least got a value, if you'd like to know that.
Yes,
This
please.
does not include the cost of purchasing any property. And this is an estimate, and it's $14,746,000.
What was that number again? I'm sorry.
$14,746,000. But that includes 25,000 square feet library. It would include whatever,
25,000 square feet?
correct.
So larger than the first plan?
No, it's larger, well, this is
This
22, yeah. Yeah. So with, I think it's 10,000, 11,000 square feet on top, that is included in there also.
And those, there's 4 properties there that would need to be acquired.
Yeah, it doesn't include cost of property purchase, just to let you know.
It also doesn't include relocating the library for a 18-month to 2-year period, so it can stay in business while construction is remodeling the existing library, so you're adding, pick a number,
Actually, that's in there.
is it?
Yeah, moving costs, library twice, and city offices once over there,
Does it
450,000.
include rent of a 10 to 15,000 square foot place for the library?
It
for the
does
period?
not, I don't see that on here. I don't see that on here.
That answer your question, Clint, at least what that road would look like currently. And I guess for everybody else, it doesn't matter.
So those 2 locations are the most reasonable ones if you were to look outside this current plan.
I suppose we could ask staff too. Greg, are you asking if there's other than blowing out the back walls or another?
Yeah, those are the 2 real only options in this downtown area, isn't that right?
I see it in the downtown area, I don't know of any other place where you might put one.
Yeah, the only other options with their available land, including land that the city owns, are outside of the downtown core.
Right.
And I don't recommend moving it out of the downtown core.
So you want me to make my motion again?
So as a council then,
That would actually require a 2/3 vote to rescind. The rescission.
and just
I
talking
can be the
about
cheapest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
council
That's the way we
family
do it.
now, all right? We've done one action, we've
Yes, please.
got to move on.
Yes, please.
Do we see 14 million as being hopeless? That just really is, do we believe the number, and is it a non-starter?
Good question.
Is that a fair question?
Yeah, I think it's a very fair question. Is that, you're looking at, we'll round up.
Well, compared to
$15
what we
million.
were gonna spend on here, it's way more than
That is
I
correct.
would ever
It's
anticipate.
140% plus land acquisition. If we were running a business, we'd be broke right now. We can't make a decision.
So, I mean,
What if, can I add something?
sure.
What if, because to satisfy everyone, get everyone on board, what if we were to invest 30 to maximum of 60 days doing additional research, and at the end of that 30 or 60 days, after we've done our research, we come back and we make another vote on whether to move forward? I mean, I believe that we should have moved forward now, but I think in order to gather additional research to satisfy everyone, would that be reasonable, a 30 to 60 day period?
That would be a question. I mean, 30 to 60 seems like a lot to me.
I think it could be shortened if you want to do that. Like I said, this is from Bill Harper. They've got expertise in that area. We could go to some other entity if you'd like, just to get a second opinion, basically.
Because it seems like a terrible shame if we scrap this whole project due to, after all the work that's gone in, it's a tremendous asset to the community. And I think if we all agree that this downtown core is the right location for the library, and I think if we do some additional research, answer some unanswered questions, and try to get everybody on the same page, and if this location wins out, then it was truly meant to be.
Okay, what other unanswered questions at this point do we have, gang? That we need to answer?
I think you need to be honest with yourselves, and if you're inclined to reallocate money to other projects, you ought to float that out and get on with it,
Or-
if
yeah.
that's the case. Because that's your option. You either do what the bond was sold for, or you reallocate it. In my opinion, you are not going to, when we looked at the second story on the First Avenue, when we were designing First Avenue, we were looking at between 15 and 16 million by the time we had a second story on there. It's not going to be any different down there. So the 14 plus is pretty accurate. It's
on par with what we've been doing.
It's close enough for planning purposes. So if you're not going to do that, and you're not going to do what we took off the table tonight, it's reallocation. That's your only option. Because you aren't going to sit on that money for 10 years, pay $5 million of interest and get nothing for it. And I'm tired.
I have to echo Counselor Harris's, if you honestly believe that, 15 is too much and isn't the route to go, then we need a
Brian,
motion.
Mr. Mayor, a majority of this council has been complaining at the UR meetings that the 10 million was too much. And you're considering 14? Give me a break. I'm sorry, this is just out of control.
So I need a motion,
Irrational.
please.
Well, one last question for the family. 14 million's too much. It's not viable. I trust Bill. I think the property acquisition's about a wash in the end. But 14 million, we're not going to hit that. So what we have to, especially those of us that voted against it here 20 minutes ago, have to look down inside ourselves and say, what can we each live with moving forward? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
And what can our mayor live with moving forward?
So would we need to have Counselor Parker here if we were to reopen this for a new vote? Would we have to have him to get the 2/3?
It's 2/3 in attendance.
It's
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds.
So
2/3 in
we
attendance.
have 2/3 in attendance right now, right?
Well, no, it'd be 2/3 of,
2/3 of those.
what are
instances.
here.
Yeah.
So if it's a decision to go back to Counselor Ayers' first motion to move ahead with said project,
I'd move to do that. I'd move to do that. I've been thinking about this all night as we've talked listened to all the testimony and everything. The vast majority of the people that showed up tonight, that had the courage or the knowledge or whatever, show up, came, and they voiced their opinion. We had just a very handful or less of individuals that were willing to testify to the other side. And I feel that the people that have spoken, they've come out here and they've shown their desire, and I want to honor that.
sir, just, okay.
Well,
Mr.
don't-
Lindsay,
When-
Can I ask a
Here we
question?
go, it says reconsideration when a motion's been decided, any council member who voted with the majority may move for reconsideration. A motion for reconsideration made, or may only be made during this meeting, so
Okay.
So it's kind of a special little
It's
area
gotta
of
be
itself.
denied if it's gonna be.
Yeah, so it isn't like rescinding a past one. So
Okay.
you're squarely in reconsideration. If somebody out of the majority that voted and was in the majority for the vote tonight wants to reconsider, you can.
I so move.
Hold
to
on,
re-
hold on.
If there's going to be a motion made, could you please read what was, if you're going to do the exact same thing, read what was done before?
Well, let me ask a question.
Okay.
How much rewording can be done so that it's a new motion?
Well, you can say, I move to reconsider a motion to exactly what it was.
And that puts it, does that become does that become a new motion?
It's a motion to reconsider the other motion.
Yeah.
So there's no other way around? We have to do it can't be just a rewording to create a new motion?
Trying to get around the two-thirds vote.
No,
I'm
this, actually rescinding requires 2/3, but you can reconsider if it's at the same exact meeting.
Right, right.
So it's kind of a change of heart idea. So it doesn't require, the reconsideration requires no 2/3.
So a simple majority if we
Correct.
reconsidered
And
tonight
then same.
As long as a person who moves is part of the majority that,
of the prior vote.
and the idea there is because they had a change of heart, they were in the majority.
So the only people who can make that motion would be Counselor Hensley, Dale, or
Correct.
Russ.
A motion to reconsider that particular motion.
So I move to reaffirm what we have already done, to spend the bond proceeds to fund the projects as currently defined in the bonds document. And do I read all the? Okay.
No. All right, so a motion to reconsider our reconsideration, to reaffirm that we have already done, and that's to spend the bond proceeds to fund the projects as currently defined in the bond documents. Do I have a second?
I would second.
Thank-
Can I second?
Yes, thank you, Counselor Ayers. Motion moved, seconded. Any further discussion?
Question for the city attorney.
Yeah.
If the motion passes,
Yeah.
it's not that the library as is passes, it's that we have decided to reconsider, and then we go into more discussion?
No, the idea, the funny thing about this particular motion to begin with was it had to do with the bond funding and the city's power in regards to the bond funding. And to even vote on that original one was to basically not require a vote because you were going to do what you were always going to do. You were just going to find consensus in doing it. If that helps understand.
Do you understand that?
Not really.
I was going to say, maybe it's late, but
It's basically saying, take back, we're just going to do what we were doing before, which is going forward with the project.
With the plan.
So the motion was originally, go forward, stop dawdling, knock it off. Now we're going, oh, okay, we do want to do that.
Yeah.
So, we have a motion made by Counselor Ryder, second by Counselor Ayers. Have had discussion. Can I have somebody ask for question, please? Question by Counselor Ryder. So once again,
Counselor Ayers,
Yes.
Counselor Hensley,
no.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Dale,
Yes.
Counselor Ryder,
Yes.
so, the motion to reaffirm what was originally asked to reaffirm, that we continue to do what we've already set out to do, to spend the bond proceeds to fund the projects as currently defined, has passed. I look at that as being 4-1. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move we adjourn.
Oh,
Second.
Hang
no
on.
more citizen input, correct?
Oh, sorry.
Theoretically, we do have, that, and that needs to be honored, so I'm assuming that there's no city administrator staff reports right now?
Absolutely none.
Thank you, sir.
No executive session?
There is no exec session, but we do have on the agenda another opportunity for citizen input. Counselor Patton, you're on a 1-minute timer tonight.
So I just want to let you know, when I joined this council, and Richard, and Walt, and the others will attest to you, that we had an uphill battle. The city had a huge black eye, and we were not trusted by this community. The display that was put on tonight has essentially unraveled a vast majority of the blood, sweat, and tears that the councils in the 3 to 4 years before you had put into it. And you have personally slapped me in the face with your actions tonight. And as an alumnus of your organization, it is a travesty. And I would be remiss if I did not verbally let you know how extremely disappointed I am that you flew the flag in the face of this community again.
Thank you, Mr. Patton, I appreciate the comments, I mean, in the spirit that they were given. I guess we have our marching orders at this point, sir.
I have D9 sitting outside.
I'm going to summate this before we move into action review and get everyone out of here. To Councilor Patton's point, this has been a very long, arduous process. I hope, and my sincerest piece is that we stop doing what's been going on and we get to work. We've got work to do. This is long overdue. So I thank you all for being here this evening, giving us your 2 cents and more. This has been a long, unfortunate, the process has been long. It's time to, let's get to work on this. I thank you all. Action review, Kim.
Okay, you've adopted resolution 1150, 1156, approved ordinance 1373 to come up for second reading on May 1st, and you've reaffirmed to spend the bond proceeds to fund the projects as currently defined in the bond documents.
Great. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
It's on the floor, I believe, Mayor.
So moved.
Move. Say, all those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Kim, do we need to leave?
Good night,
this with you
Conley,
tonight?
Jamie.